In this video, these nightstands get a makeover where I challenge my high volume gun against my low volume gun, and we're going to see which gun performs better. Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Sab's Rehabs, where I take old, outdated, often damaged furniture, give it a whole new look and a second chance at life. This is a sweet pair of nightstands that I found on Facebook Marketplace. Overall, the nightstands are in good shape, just a few nicks and dings, but I noticed that they are a high dollar name brand. I got this for $60 for the set, so that's $30 for each nightstand. In today's economy, that is one heck of a deal, so there's no way I was gonna let these slip through my fingers. All right, let's get right into it by giving these a good cleaning and removing the hardware. This drill brush attachment set comes with different drill brush options, and I go through and I pick a couple that I think will be good for cleaning this set. During cleaning, I wipe the excess soap away, and then afterwards, I come back with a damp, lint-free cloth to give these nightstands a nice clean rinse. Okay, so I've been a furniture flipper for 10 years and been cleaning my furniture by hand and an old kitchen sponge, and this drill brush set is definitely the way to go. I will clean my furniture from now on like this. I don't know where this has been my whole life, but it makes cleaning so much faster and easier for me. So 10 out of 10, I definitely recommend these. Now, I don't know exactly how old these nightstands are because I didn't do the research, but by the looks of this charging device, it's pretty early on whenever that became an option for your nightstands. My plan is to sell these nightstands after I'm finished, so to make sure that my own rear end is covered, I'm going to remove all this old electrical wiring. While I have the drawers removed, I do go ahead and wipe the insides of them out as a courtesy, and then got right to mixing up some Bondo to patch in and fill all those damaged areas. Once the Bondo was dry on the curved areas, I sanded by hand and then came back with my Surf Prep sander and scuff sand the entire surface to prepare it for paint. Typically when scuff sanding, you have the white powder sanding dust that you can see, but on these light ones you won't be able to see them, but just know it's still there. So you are getting the job done. Next, I always wipe the sanding dust away with a damp, lint-free cloth and then let that surface air dry. All right, here the challenge begins. On the left side is my 3M, the right side is the Intercraft gun, and I will be comparing them from here on out. Some of the pros of the 3M is the clear marked measurements on the side of the cup, and then also the filter is built into the lid, so you don't have to pre-filter your product before you put it into your cup liner. On both guns, I do have to thin out the product with some water to make sure it sprays nicely through the gun. Now with the Intercraft gun, putting product in the container is a little bit more time consuming because I do have to filter it as it goes into the container because there is not a built-in filter like there is on the 3M. I'm also recording how fast they perform, so I have a stopwatch on my watch for the Intercraft and then a stopwatch that I'm using on my phone for the 3M. My Intercraft gun is my low volume gun, so I let my air tank build up to 150 and then I turn the tool down because you want to operate this gun at under 50 psi. For the first round of primer, I did go ahead and turn the air compressor off at 150, and I am just using the gun and spraying, trying to see how far I can go off just that amount built up. And you can see because this gun is a low volume gun, I'm not able to move my hand extremely fast while I'm applying the primer, but I am able to continuously keep working to get this piece done. I sprayed the whole thing, and then when I went back to look at my tank, I still had a little bit of pressure left where I could spray a little bit more. Now I let the tank build pressure back up because I'm going to switch and spray the other nightstand with my 3M AccuSpray. I turned my tool up to about 90 psi because this is my high volume gun, so it operates at a higher psi. You can see with the 3M gun, I am able to put the product on faster and I have a little bit larger of a spray region. Now I only have a 30-gallon air compressor, so I was not able to finish the entire nightstand before the pressure ran out and it was too low. So I had to sit there with the air compressor running and waited for a few minutes to let it pick and build back up before I was able to finish up spraying the nightstand. That Intercraft low volume gun allows me to continuously work, but I do have to move my hand at a slower pace. With the 3M, I'm able to spray much faster, but have to wait for that tank to build back up. After 2 coats of primer, this is where we're at time-wise. When the primer was dry, I noticed that some of the seams of the furniture aren't as high-end looking as I want them to be, because these are, a few years old. So I filled them with some paintable caulk, wiped the excess away with my finger, and then came back with a damp paper towel to smooth it out. And then I let that dry. Moving right along to paint, I don't know why, but I thought maybe you only needed to see me put the paint into my 3M canister, but I did put it into my Intercraft as well and filter it like I did the primer before. I have my settings on my tank set up for this Intercraft, my low volume gun, and I start spraying the paint. Again, this is my low volume gun, so I have to move my hand at a slower pace, but I'm able to continuously keep working and I don't have to stop and wait for that air tank to build that pressure back up. One of the benefits of definitely using a low volume gun to start out with, if you're considering switching to a spray gun, is that with this low volume, you're not going to get as much product spraying out of your gun. So that means you have less overspray, which means you lose less product, so that saves you money. But also too, you're less likely with a low volume gun to spray too much product into one spot in one area, which causes those sags and drips and drags in your paint. So I definitely do consider this Intercraft gun a more new user-friendly gun. With my 3M AccuSpray, I do have to say that, all spray guns have a learning curve. This one, definitely, I had a bigger learning curve trying to figure out the spray nozzle, the size of pattern, the amount of fluid, how to avoid getting drips and drags in my paint job. And I could be just an extremely impatient person here, but it seems like the longer and the more I use my air compressor, the longer it takes for that pressure to build back up in that tank so I can keep spraying with that 3M AccuSpray. But it's a good way for me to spend some time getting caught up on my reading, I guess. Can you imagine though, if you had a really large air compressor, how much faster this 3M AccuSpray would be at doing furniture though? So if you do have a large air compressor setup, this might be a better option for you. I live in a neighborhood, so I'm sure it drives my neighbors nuts when I am running my air compressor continuously for hours at a time. I do have to admit though that both guns spray product beautifully. The paint I'm spraying today is Clark Kensington Premium Paint in the color Black Sand. Now, spraying dark colors, you can have more chance of getting streaks. So my tip for avoiding getting streaks or spray angle patterns in your finish is to switch your direction. Coat 1, I spray the tops left to right. This is coat 2, I do front to back. And then when I switch to coat 3, I'll do left to right again. I still have my timers running, so this includes like cleanup and then putting the paint, filtering it. But after 3 coats of paint, this is where I'm at timeline wise. And I want to specify that that does not include drying time at all. That is just manual labor, actual work time on the pieces. I'm going with the high-end look on these, so I want a super smooth finish. I haven't showed it each time, but between every layer of primer, paint, and top coat, I do lightly sand and wipe that dust away. For top coat, I am using Behr's water-based polyurethane in the satin finish. And with my low volume gun, you can see that I'm getting a very light layer. It's not even really changing the color of the product. So you know that you're getting a nice thin light layer, which is good for your first layer of top coat. Now, if we were judging speed of top coat application only, the 3M gun would win by a landslide because this is 8.5 seconds to get the top and the front of the nightstand done. Just wow. Now I only sprayed 1 coat and let that dry because next I'm adding this Madeleine decoupage paper. The sides of the nightstands are so big and open, and I just wanted to add some mood and drama and sexiness to them. So I thought this pattern was the perfect ones for these nightstands to get the look that I want. I did order 2 of those papers, 1 for each nightstand. And the size wise, them cut in half is almost perfect size to fit the sides of the nightstands. So I work in sections and I'm using that bare water-based polyurethane to put on a layer of poly underneath the decoupage paper, and then I move the decoupage paper into place. I make sure to smooth out any bumps and wrinkles in the process. Once I have the paper completely attached to the side, I do come back with a razor blade to trim the excess off, and then I also put a coat of poly on top of it to seal in and protect that paper. Now I left the excess decoupage paper hanging off the back because once it was dry, I grabbed some 150 grit sandpaper and a sanding block, came in at a 45-degree angle and just knocked away that excess paper. And then I grabbed my guns one last time and sprayed 2 more coats of the water-based poly for full protection. Whenever you're spraying top coat over a dark color like this black sands paint, it can look a little milky, but don't be alarmed. Whenever it dries, it's typically crystal clear. Okay, so I've been keeping track of time of switching products, cleaning them out, letting my air compressor build back up from whenever it ran out. And then time-wise, this is where we're at. In this business, time is money, and that Intercraft gun is faster. We have a few final touches before the big reveal. Now, the handles, someone had put some kind of weird glitter glue paint on just the handles. So, crackle paint and glitter paint, no, please don't add them to furniture. I had to work so hard. I went through this process of boiling them in vinegar and water and scrubbing, and then I was finally able to get the majority. I don't think all of that glitter paint is ever going to come off. Just no on furniture, please. All right, so these are black with gold and white chandelier design, and so you know I'm going to add some gilding wax, but I have a couple different options. So I painted a board in the black paint and then grabbed all my gold gilding waxes that I keep in my workshop and put them to the board and then compare them up to that decoupage paper so I can pick which gold actually works best for the detail and the trim. The decoupage paper has 2 different colors of gold in the piece, so I decided to do that as well. And I grabbed my French letter stencil, and I'm using the white gilding wax to fill in that stencil. I'm not really showing the process of filling it in very well because I didn't realize I didn't have a very good angle, but I just picked up the stencil, replaced it so it was big enough to fill in the whole front of the drawers. Now, I made a rookie mistake and forgot to tape the edges of my drawers while I was spraying. And when I went to sand the spray off of the paint, it removed the finish of the drawers as well. And like I said, I want a high-end look on these. So my fix for that was to use this beautiful black and gold damask peel and stick wallpaper to cover the sides of the drawers. It's just a pretty and romantic look that adds to the piece instead of taking away. I applied the wallpaper on and used a razor blade to cut around the drawer slide and then also trim all the excess off the edges of the drawers. And then voila, so much better than overspray or sanding marks. Now I added some light gold to the letters on the front of the drawers, but I want to get this darker gold that's prominent in the decoupage paper. So I'm using this gold leaf gilding wax and I apply that to the handles. But you know, in my normal fashion, I don't just stop there, but I at least get the gilding wax on the handles, put the drawers back in, and then put the handles on the drawers So I can kind of take a step back and look and see, like, do I need to go nuts with the gold or do I need to add just a little bit of gold? And of course I add it to some trim in detail, but you have to wait and see the final look so you see what all and where I put all this gold. And then this set is done. So let's compare the final finished product. Running my hands over the top of both nightstands, they both feel very smooth. Next, I take my camera and get in close. This is the dresser or the nightstand on the right, so this is the inner craft. Very smooth, I don't see any texture. When I zoom in with the 3M, I actually think that I see a little bit of spray texture here on the surface. Here's a quick reminder of our before. These nightstands are beautiful, but I feel like that detail doesn't stand out. And then this is what they look like now. The black with the different shades of gold and that beautiful decoupage paper all come together to create this romantic, dark, moody, and sexy vibe. And the performance of that inner craft gun, it just, wow. It is low volume, so it is quieter, it is faster, it uses less product, so it saves you money, and it is cheaper. And it's the higher performing gun, better than my high volume, high dollar gun. I will have these nightstands listed later today on my Etsy shop. I hope you enjoyed this flip. That's all I have for you today. Until next time.